Benjamin Netanyahu's starvation of Gaza plan is in full effect, intentionally blocking international food aid, watching 2 million Palestinians starve to death. That's the goal. This is a war crime by all accounts. Even if you're like fully in the tank for Israel and you don't think Israel could ever do anything wrong, they walk on water, whatever it is, this is a war crime. By any definition, this is a war crime. This is the stuff of demons. And yes, Benjamin Netanyahu is a demon. That's no longer up for debate. Even the Trump administration officials are saying this behind closed doors. Very interesting, isn't it? The once loved Netanyahu is now being pushed aside, cast asunder, as they say. That's why Trump is distancing himself from Netanyahu publicly, rescuing an American hostage, pissing off Netanyahu. Friend of the show, Jewish journalist Max Blumenthal reported Netanyahu wanted hostage Adon Alexander dead. And instead, Trump went behind his back and got him out. Netanyahu wanted Adon Alexander dead and regrets that Trump rescued him via back-channel negotiations with Hamas. Alexander's story should be a cautionary tale for every American Jew considering making Aliyah and joining the Israeli occupation army. Overnight, Israel launched a new round of attacks on Gaza, killing 84 people, including little children. The photos are just heartbreaking. We had to blur them out here so, that you can't see them. But, a father here just touching the head of his dead son, his little son, wrapped in a sheet. We've blurred out his face because it's just too horrible, of course, to look at. President Trump in Saudi Arabia said he's working on ending the war in Gaza as soon as possible. Right as soon as he said that, though, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu renewed his promise that the war will not stop. So Trump says we're stopping this thing, and Netanyahu's like, nope, no, you're not. We're going to continue this. And so you see where this is going. President Trump also said we need to get food to the people of Gaza.
When Gaza came up, and I said, got to be good to Gaza. Those people are suffering. We got to be good to Gaza. We're going to take care of that. There's a very big need for medicine, food and medicine, and we're taking care of it.
In terms of like opening up more access points, or
very hard.
Pushing the Israelis.
We are.
To open up more access
very
points.
Hard to get food and medicine into Gaza.
How did the Prime Minister respond to that?
Well, felt well about it.
We're pushing them hard.
Who felt well about it?
Yeah, I'm sure he felt well about that because I'm sure some threats were actually made. We're pushing them very hard. Okay, that's all good. That's all fine and good. But Israel is still using American bombs to kill innocent people. Israel used American bombs overnight to attack 2 different hospital locations in Khan Yunis. Trump could stop this immediately. No more like friendly phone calls with him, pushing him around on this. If he really wanted to, you stop the weapons, you stop the money flowing into Israel right now. It's very, very simple. Europe and the United Nations have turned on Israel in a big way. Every EU country on the Security Council demanding Israel lift its food aid blockade that is starving Gaza.
Israel has now fully blocked aid entering Gaza for over 2 months. Blocking aid as a pressure lever is unacceptable. And last week, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved plans to expand its military operations in Gaza.
And the United Nations.
And the West Bank, too.
Yeah. And the United Nations, the head of relief aid, Tom Fletcher, really raised a lot of eyebrows yesterday when he said that life-saving assistance is sitting there. It's waiting at the border crossings. And humanitarian aid workers are desperate to deliver that aid. But of course, Israel won't let them. And also the real story, of course, anybody who's covering this, is that they're being targeted and shot. That's also what's happening. Those aid workers are being targeted and assassinated. Watch.
For more than 10 weeks, nothing has entered Gaza. No food, medicine, water, or tents. Every single one of the 2.1 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip face the risk of famine. 1 in 5 face starvation. Despite the fact that you have funded the food that could save them. I can tell you from having visited what's left of Gaza's medical system that death on this scale has a sound and a smell that does not leave you. As one hospital worker described it, children scream as we peel burnt fabric from their skin. And yet we hear that we did all we could. Our response as humanitarians is to make a single ask of the Council. Let us work. We have a plan. We have life-saving supplies ready now at the borders. We can save hundreds of thousands of survivors. We have rigorous mechanisms to ensure our aid gets to civilians and not to Hamas.
Yeah.
There's a good question in the chat. And Rumbold says, why doesn't Egypt send all the aid? Because, of course, Gaza does back up to Egypt and there are entry points through Egypt, but Israel inspects those. Israel
totally controls it.
Israel controls those too, and the Egyptian government has worked alongside and cooperated with Israel because they don't want a war on their own borders as well. It's a fair question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't Israel runs like 8 miles into Egypt, doesn't it? Something like into Rafah. I mean, they not just control the border, but into the border.
Yeah, we've covered extensively here, just across the border in Rafah, that massive concentration camp that Egypt built, but Israel controls and has full security control over that entire region. Also, Israel bombed the Rafah border crossing where they were trying to get aid there before. So, yes.
Right. Fair question. Okay. Well, meanwhile, even Israeli journalists are calling some major BS on the Netanyahu regime. Gideon Levy is an Israeli journalist with Haaretz, and he gave this heartbreaking interview this week. And I want to show you clips of this. Watch how he begins when the journalist asks him, what is the plan here? How do Israelis take this? Watch.
I am so desperated that I don't know where to start. On one hand, I have the feeling that there are no real goals. In the beginning of this war, or this attack, shall we call it a brutal attack and not a war, in the beginning, it was very clear that Israel wants to punish Gaza, not only Hamas. You know, the 7th of October was really a traumatic event in Israel, and there was the need to do something, and to punish, and to take revenge. But 19 months later, when you see that it continues, and it continues in a terrible intensity. Only the last day, there were almost 100 people killed, almost all of them innocent people, 22 children, just in the last day when we are talking now. You realize that genocide is the word. Now, it's not that Israel is planning a genocide, no, even not the government. But it's very clear that there's nothing cheaper than the life of the people in Gaza, and they are serving as toys in a game, mainly domestic politics game, in which Netanyahu and his government want to continue it.
It's Netanyahu and his government that wants this. Clearly, there's no other explanation. Now, here he talks about how the rest of the world sees this in batches, and we get it in news headlines. 20 children killed, 15 in a school, 15 medics here, a few in an apartment building here. He says for him, it isn't these numbers, it's real people like this. Watch.
There are the statistics which are horrifying, the UN statistics. Every day you get new figures, but it's not only about the figures. I mean, it's very clear that starvation, every fifth person in Gaza is starving. Over 90% of the people of Gaza, if not 100%, don't get enough food. But I always think about individuals. I have a friend in Gaza with whom I used to work in Gaza for many, many years. He's 63 after a stroke. And he's diabetic, and he needs insulin. And 1 week ago, he told me he was left with the last 2 drops of insulin. I didn't call him ever since then, but we know what happens to people in his condition when they don't have insulin. He is not an exception. He is Gaza.
He is Gaza.
Can you imagine sitting there and you're like, I can't call him back because I can't know what's going to happen to him because I know the inevitability. So we sit by while people go into diabetic comas. And that's what we are doing collectively. Now, he says two more things that I really want you to hear because I think this is the only thing that people in our helpless situation can take away from this. Number one, how do Israelis live like this with so much death happening in front of them every single day? How do they live? He says, we have a constant cloud. I mean, you have to think about it like the energy of death is constantly in the air. And then he talks about who is the only person who can stop it. So first, how do Israelis cope with this?
What Israelis tell themselves is that the world is anti-Semitic, that they are all against us no matter what we do, that they all hate us no matter what we do. And by this, that's the best protection shield, because then you are not accountable for anything. It's about the world who is anti-Semitic. And therefore, people are less troubled by it.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a good robe to wrap yourself in.
Right. We have to do it because they want our extinction. So it gives us license because everybody hates them, right? They're sold this idea. And yet when Israelis go abroad, they are usually welcomed diplomatically. And so, it's an indoctrination. If you can read many books of Israeli Jews who've been told about who write about the education they get from the get-go, from the start. So he talks about the anchor says, well, what about, all the boycotts of Israel or the Israeli economy, because Israel can suffer from this because the international world is condemning them. So will the fallout of the Israeli economy do anything? And he says, well, really, there isn't a fallout. We're all pretty much fine. Our economy's good. Life here is pretty good other than this dark cloud. Listen to who he thinks is the only person who can stop it.
The only one who can stop Israel right now is Donald Trump. And I have feeling that he's not going to do it, but I'm not sure. I still have some hope.
Okay. Is there any other way to see it? Your university boycott is not going to do anything. Obviously the leaders of Europe, to be fair, Macron has been saying this for over a year, that the people of Gaza are suffering. It's easy to ignore Macron. It's easy to ignore Spain, right? It's the only person it's not easy to ignore is Donald Trump. He really is the only one who handles the cards. But maybe, just maybe, Trump is starting with a bigger priority right now, which is preventing Israel from starting a nuclear World War III.
Right, and moving towards a peace plan with Iran and a nuclear deal, which is sending shockwaves through the world right now that, Iran may walk away from their nuclear ambitions if the United States lifts sanctions. We'll talk more about that. But that's exactly what Alex Jones said the other day when he addressed neocons like Mark Levin, who actively wants a war with Iran, wants Iran wiped off the face of the map. He wants the United States to put Israel first, do Israel's bidding against Iran, he, Ben Shapiro, and others. But specifically, this is my favorite clip of the week. I've watched this multiple times now.
Let's warn you, there's a F-bomb here, but this one's worth it. This is the energy we feel. I just wanted to give that. We didn't bleep it, did we?
I don't know.
I didn't bleep it. So, okay.
Nope.
I just want to give that warning for our audience. Okay, go ahead.
So I don't want to hear it. I speak for the Christians and Jews of America, as I played last hour. I'm Mark Levin, and we don't stand with Al-Qaeda. Well, the hell you don't. Your boss, Netanyahu, literally runs it. He's the last standing neocon with any power. So I don't want to hear it. Stop talking to me like I'm culturally and historically and military illiterate. I'm not, Mark. And Trump is actually pro-Israel, and he understands that Iran is going to blow it off the map, and then Israel's going to blow them off the map, and then Pakistan and India are going to have a nuclear war, and all the war games are all dead, you dumb son of a bitch. What the fuck's your problem? You fucking megalomaniac, fuckheads. And that's what Trump's told Netanyahu, a little nicer than that, but not much more, I was told. I mean, we're rational, sane men.
It's too good.
Oh my God, I've watched it so many times.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Mark Levin. Oh my God, these
What the F's your
warmongers,
problem?
these neocons.
We want to not die and not other people to die.
And we don't want to do Netanyahu, the demon, the Satan that is Netanyahu. We don't want to do his bidding. Stop pretending that he's a nice guy. He's evil. And the people that have worked with him, who I've spoken to, will tell you how corrupt and evil that man is. We're not doing his bidding anymore. And I hope that that message is getting through to Netanyahu, hopefully. Anyway, we're going to talk more about that.
Well, did you pick up when he
just
says
a little bit here coming up on the show
that this is what Trump told Netanyahu in maybe a little bit nicer, but not much?
Yeah.
So he's reporting that Trump blew like this to Netanyahu in order to prevent World War III. So, okay, I hope that's true. I don't have any way to know if it is or not. One of the resources we use when we're trying to figure out what the bias is on any given news is Ground News, and they are a sponsor of Redacted, and we'd love to tell you about it. It's a way where you can go to ground.news. You can see what's trending, what are the major stories, or you can look up a story on your own and figure out what is the political bent of the different places that is covering it. So they will give you links to the outlets you just saw, like BBC, CNN, all over the place, and they will label it for you, whether or not there's a bias there and how there is a bias. Because a lot of times I think the most of us can see these stories. We know that something's been omitted, but we're not exactly sure what or how. And if you juxtapose that with the other bent, then you can get the most complete story. So for instance, this trip to the Middle East for Trump, there's going to be so many different takes on it in the coming weeks and months. We need to know how to see it, and we need a balanced perspective. So if you head on over to ground.news/redacted, you'll get 40% off unlimited access. And again, you get all the world's news in one place, plus they keep it real with you to let you know how to see things. So it's like walking a full circle around any given story to see, what am I missing? What don't I know, right? You can't rely on any one news site. So again, we use it all the time. If we think like, well, that's obviously bad, what am I missing? That's a great place to go. So again, ground.news/redacted and get 40% off.
Something deeply disturbing is happening in Canadian classrooms, specifically in Vancouver area schools, but every Canadian needs to see this to believe it. This isn't about reading or math. It's about teaching kids how to think. It's not even about teaching kids how to think critically or even how to behave properly in a classroom respectfully. No, this is a coordinated campaign funded and sanctioned by public school boards to push a radical gender ideology directly into the minds of 5-year-olds, kindergartners. Look at this. We've obtained exclusive images from a new Westminster kindergarten classroom. Take a look at this. These are from the Coquette Elementary School. At first glance, it might look like a normal classroom, tiny chairs, colorful floors, kids in sneakers, but look closer and you'll see something shocking. Stickers of the Progress Pride flag, now updated to include trans stripes and intersex symbols stuck to the back of each chair in the classroom. I mean, I would flip the hell out. I'd have an Alex Jones moment like that if I walked into a classroom and saw my kid sitting in a chair like this with someone's disgusting politics stuck to the back of the chair. Wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, it's not just politics. It's promoting sexual diversions, like or deviance.
Perversions,
Perversions, yeah. How is a child supposed to have any hope of understanding who they are and what healthy relationships are and what, respect for their own body is when they're being told this agenda that says, have sex with whoever, whenever, whatever it feels like all the time, and you'll explore yourself, and that's empowerment. And then that leads to a life of depression and disease. Way to go, kindergarten.
Yeah, way to go. These aren't just decorations. They're political symbols pushing an ideological agenda, like Natali talked about, that celebrates sexual deviance. I mean, that's exactly what this is. Mommy, why is there a trans pride flag on my chair in my school? Mommy, am I trans? I'm kind of told that, I should be okay with going and getting part of my genitalia chopped off.
Well, obviously, if you're celebrating this, then maybe I want to be it, right? Quite obviously, if this is something the school district is promoting, seemed obvious.
Yeah. So why the hell would a kindergartner classroom need these flags? Are 5-year-olds demanding political representation? Are toddlers lobbying for gender identity inclusion? Of course not. This is not about what the children want at all. This is about what the activists want. Full stop. That's it. And it's not just some rogue teacher, by the way. This is coming from the top. Redacted has received the internal emails. Yes, the actual emails sent out to teachers and staff in School District 40, which includes Vancouver's New Westminster. Here's the email. Take a look at your screen. It outlines Direct Pride Logo Initiative. And now the school district is mandating the placement of pride flags in every school facility across the Vancouver School District. Not just outside the school, inside where the children are. Again, this is coming from the top. The district pride logo will soon be displayed at the main entrance of all of our learning and working sites, welcoming students, staff, and visitors when they walk into the school. In their own words, this is an effort is intended to increase the visibility of the district's support for our 2SLGBTQ plus community. When did this all get added in there? 2SL? When is that? The email praises the redesign of the school's district logo using the Progress Pride colors crafted by a former student, of course, and then brags about how this symbol of ideological conformity will greet every student and visitor at the door when they walk in.
Oh, yours will be shipped soon. Put it at the front of the door. Entrance to the school.
Like as if it's a rainbow-themed government logo somehow makes a child feel safer. And then it doesn't stop there. Here's their... Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and the thing is, like, the kids that don't buy into that ideology, they're the ones that will be punished. Like, you have to be welcoming to everyone but them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then look at this on the district's website. You'll find a full rundown of what's planned for Pride Month in the schools, including events for the youngest students. This is happening during school hours with taxpayer dollars and without any debate. It's not optional. It's not up for discussion. Parents are simply expected to comply. Well, let me be clear. No one is suggesting that any child should be bullied or excluded. Every child deserves respect. But this isn't about kindness. This is about ideology. This is about the state-backed political indoctrination of children. And it's being carried out at the most impressionable members of our society. Children, kindergartners, 5-year-olds, for crying out loud. It's no wonder that sex change operations right now are surging in Western countries. Hell, today, news out of the UK this morning in the Daily Mail. Soaring numbers of children are waiting for specialist gender care on the NHS, with 157 of them under the age of 10. So business is booming for UK's gender care specialists. According to a report, a number of British children are reportedly awaiting gender care appointments as specialists, toddler-age kids awaiting to have their genitalia basically cut off. Over 100 kids under 10 awaiting this treatment. I'm furious about it. This isn't education.
Well, actually, no, because if you were going to educate people about what it really means to be homosexual, you might tell them the truth about the things, or a lesbian, or bisexual, or sexually promiscuous. You would tell them the real risks, such as the risks that come with abortion, such as the risks that come with gay sex. There's a lot of risk, actually, for anal sex that we are not told. You would tell the risks of being a lesbian. Do you know that lesbians have the highest rate of STDs? Why does that make sense? They don't sleep with men, because it turns out they do. All of this, I refer you to Miriam Grossman's excellent book called You're Teaching My Children What? For all of the real data around sex that they don't teach. So they don't teach that for a reason. That omission shows that it's plainly political in order to promote healthy sexuality as promiscuity and experimentation. And obviously, that leads to depression.
Well said. Excellent. Well said. And if you question it, you're the problem, right?
Yeah.
You question it, you're the problem. You're the bigot. You're the one who needs re-education.
Right.
You're the problem. So I hope people in Vancouver stand up, demand school district reverse the sick policy. We've put messages into the school district. I want to know who signed off on this. Did the parents? So when little children walk in, they've got these trans flags and all of this political propaganda slapped on their children as soon as they walk into the school. Are the parents okay with this? Who signed off on this? People in Vancouver, and of course, this is going to be spreading into massive amounts of other places as well. You guys need to stop it. Stand up and fight for this.
If you've ever had a cup of coffee that makes you feel younger, more alive, well, that's where you go for 1775's Rejuvenate coffee. It's a bold dark roast infused with KAAKG. That's the same compound studied to reverse biological age by up to 8 years. You guys, it fuels your cells, sharpens your minds, and supports long-term strength, all without popping a cabinet full of supplements or drinking swamp water in a bottle. This isn't junk lab. It's not a mystery blend. It's just real single origin, small batch coffee that will make you go boing, which is what you buy coffee for, isn't it? Well, here's the best part. When you buy 1775 coffee, you're backing free speech, freedom of choice, and a company that backs the same creative values that we do here on Redacted. So no corporate overlords, just some products made for people who really believe in something real and want to add something to the economy. So go to 1775coffee.com, grab their anti-aging longevity roast, use the code Redacted, and you'll get 15% off. So feel sharper, stronger, younger, and know that you're fueling the companies that give a damn about your health and freedom. That's 1775coffee.com/redacted. Use the code Redacted.
All right, I want to tell you about Ursula von der Leyen. She's the European Commissioner and Death Eater. She got a slap on the hand for her backdoor vaccine deals. It's called Pfizer-gate, when she hid text messages she had sent to Albert Bourla, the head of Pfizer, to get vaccines paid for by the European Union and into the European Union. Now, this is again happening to her because when this chick gets investigated, her phones always seem to be blank and wiped. How does that happen? Now, it's no secret, I'm not a fan of hers. She's an authoritarian demon, and it's super frustrating to watch her continue to fail up and never face consequences. I remind you, she lost every election she ever ran in Germany, but her party won. That's why she was installed into the Bundestag. And when she was Germany's defense minister, she was investigated for military contracts. When officials tried to search her phone, it'd been wiped. Again, no, I don't know. I don't have that contacts. I don't know how these military but let me assure you, the military contracts were on the up and up. You can't see it. Phone's blank. Sorry. This all fell under the radar because it happened in early 2020 and then the pandemic. So she never was punished. Now comes this court case from the European Commission where, again, this is the big case because she's hiding things on her phone. In 2021, the New York Times reported on how she was sending personal text messages on her phone with Albert Bourla, and we never got to know how the European Union paid for or got those Pfizer vaccines. The New York Times requested these texts, and she said, don't have them. We don't have them. She didn't say why. She didn't say what happened. She just said, don't have it. F off. The court said, yeah, you do. We have proof that you do. You must hand them over. And they went to another European court. That European court says, yeah, you guys are being super shady. You didn't give a reason for why they were deleted. You didn't tell us how you had looked. You didn't have any justifiable reason for this non-possession. In other words, you're being shady and that doesn't apply. But this is the European Commission. They don't have to do shit that they don't want to. So they're saying, yeah, okay, sorry. The court gave us a hand slap. We're sorry we did that. They're saying, this is when a government is, we should have been more transparent. That's what governments always say when they screw their own people. So they have not, though, committed to handing over the text messages. Even though the court says they have to, they're still saying, we're not going to be bothered to go look. So will we ever, how can you do this? How can a court say you got to do this? And they're like, sorry, we didn't do it. I'm going to try. I mean, imagine you're a kid. You're like, Ava, clean your room. Sorry, I didn't clean my room. No, it doesn't end there. I'm the authority and you got to do what I say. So again, this is one slippery bitch. And I would like to see some punishment. So let me know what you think of that. What?
You want to talk about slippery bitches?
Okay.
Let's talk about Jake Tapper real quick here. Okay. Jake Tapper is on a book tour right now for his scam of a book about the cover up of Biden's mental decline. Even though he was complicit in that cover up, he's been doing interviews, but only, of course, on his own network. They've been like parading him around his own network on CNN. So clearly no one will actually see any interviews there because no one watches that network. So the questions are going to be really tough, right? Can you imagine? Like you see Jake down the hall, you're going to ask him tough questions. Actually, not so fast. Here's CNN's John Berman actually asking Jake Tapper a tough question like, hey, weren't you to blame for this cover-up? Watch.
Think of conservatives now criticizing you and the media in general for how President Biden was covered during his administration.
I think some of the criticism is fair, to be honest, of me. Certainly, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. But knowing then what I know now, I look back at my coverage during the Biden years, and I did cover some of these issues, but not enough. I look back on it with humility. Look, what we learned through our reporting is that starting in around 2019, 2020, there were two Bidens. There was a Biden that was perfectly workable, serviceable, seemed fine, and then there was a non-functioning one that couldn't come up with names of top aides, that would lose his train of thought to an alarming degree. And that non-functioning Biden reared his head increasingly over and over. It really seemed to exacerbate and get much worse in 2023, 2024.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
I purposely,
I purposely hid the story, underreported the story, but go ahead and buy my book. So I, like, that's really what he's saying here. Like, I lied, I hid this. I have a lot of humility about it now. I've been really thinking about it.
Fair. It's fair, but buy the book. What were you going to say, Philip?
Well, I know people like misspeak sometimes, but I don't know if what he was trying to say, but he said, knowing then what I know now. And I do believe that's how it was, that he did know then what he knows now.
Exactly.
Like,
Sure.
So
My kids knew it, like from
Freudian.
footage. So
Yeah.